Welcome to No Filter Doctor, where we cut through the health hype and dig into what's real, what works, and what's backed by evidence. I'm Dr. AK. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to talk about gut health in this episode. It has become a huge health trend with all these different companies who are so eager to analyze your gut and provide you with personalized supplements to address all your problems. Now, the question is any of it true? What exactly is gut health? How do we know if our gut is healthy? Can we change it if it isn't? Is gut health actually a legit concern, or is this just another one of these healthcare hype trends? So I thought we would talk about it today and see what the evidence shows. To answer the first question of what is gut health, I turn to the American Medical Association, and I will read you their definition. They say, gut health refers to the well-being of the digestive system, which is responsible for breaking down food, absorbing nutrients, and eliminating waste from the body. It is made up of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that are collectively referred to as the gut microbiome. So there you have it. That is the definition of the AMA regarding gut health. The thing is, though, the gut microbiome, it's just part of the entire human microbiome. Whether you like it or not, your entire body has bacteria. You have it on your skin, in your mouth, in your GI tract. I mean, I could name all the different parts, but I don't want to get too graphic here. The fact is that we have these bacteria on us. We have a symbiotic relationship with them. And when everything's in balance, we have generally good health. Each of our microbiomes are actually pretty vast and unique. And over 1,000 different bacterial species have been identified. And about 160 of them are in the gut. So an individual's microbiome starts at birth, and it's often influenced by age, lifestyle, diet. Ethnicity can have something to do with it because of what we eat culturally, right? Like our different ethnicities, we eat these different foods. Geographic locations, genetics, whether you're around animals or not, whether you take antibiotics or not. I mean, there's so many different factors that influence, quote, gut health. And when you look at the data, people are really hard pressed to say what good gut health is and what bad gut health is. It all comes down to balance. So if you have a diverse microbiome, meaning there's all kinds of different bacterial species that live in balance with each other, that is considered, quote, good gut health. The converse of that would be poor or bad gut health. But that also refers to this balance and diversity. If you have a low diversity of bacteria or it's imbalanced, that's then considered this poor gut health. It's also known as dysbiosis. That is the medical term for this kind of imbalanced, low diversity microbiome. Another question that often comes up a lot is, well, what does this gut microbiome do? Like, what does it even function as? And the truth is, it does play several crucial roles. Like I said, we are in a symbiotic relationship with these bacteria. We provide them nourishment, and they help us with some of our functions. One of them is digestion of food. So our bodies often don't produce the enzymes that we need to break down certain plant carbohydrates and minerals. The gut microbiome, the microorganisms that are in our gut, they produce these enzymes and they help us break this down. Metabolic function is another one. In the process of digestion, the microbiome produces these very specific short-chain fatty acids that might actually play a role in anti-cancer activity, glucose control, fat metabolism, and even appetite regulation. Our gut microbiome can offer immune support as well in individuals with a normal immune system. Now, if you don't have a normal immune system, the bacteria in your microbiome can actually wreak havoc. So I'm talking about normal immune system. The gut microbiome can offer protection from different pathogenic organisms. A good example of this is an infection known as Clostridium difficile. A lot of people have C. diff. That's the short for Clostridium difficile. A lot of people have it in their body. It's part of their microbiome, but it's in balance with other organisms. Then you get ill, you get a bacterial infection somewhere else, you need to take antibiotics. Well, those antibiotics wipe out a bunch of the, quote, good bacteria. Again, it's really just about diversity. And then the C. diff takes over, goes into an imbalance, and then you have that pathogenic infection. So when you're not on antibiotics and you have a normal immune system, the gut microbiome protects from that C. diff turning into a problematic infection. There's even some evidence that the microbiome can be protective of inflammation as well. So we do have a lot of benefits and functions that come from our gut microbiome. If we go back to this whole healthy versus unhealthy gut, a lot of problems arise because there really is no definition of what makes a healthy microbiome. In 2007, the National Institutes of Health launched the Human Microbiome Project, and the whole point was to explore relationships between this microbiome and human hosts. Before this project, there were approximately 300 studies that were published on the topic. After the project began, the studies quadrupled. Many have identified specific organisms that make up the microbiomes. The problem is the attempt to link the microbes to certain health states has fallen a little bit short. For example, there are studies that will link your microbiome to lupus, obesity, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel disease, celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, autism, colon cancer, mental health disorders, COVID-19, and up to 130 other different health conditions. I can't help but wonder, is that because the microbiome is just so important? Or is it because we just don't have a lot of good studies if you have this many different issues? The other issue is when you have this many different issues and you don't 100% for sure know if there's any truth behind them, it opens the market to just be flooded with all kinds of different things that you can buy to, quote, fix your microbiome and cure some of these diseases, which quite honestly are not going to be controlled by just fixing your microbiome. That then leads us to the topic of probiotics, prebiotics, functional foods, and all the different things that are out there to improve the gut microbiome. So let's just take a second to define each of those. So probiotics are living beneficial bacteria that you can ingest to promote good bacterial growth in your gut. It's a little capsule, and you take it, and there's actually bacteria in the capsule, and you introduce them to your gut. Prebiotics are non-digestible supplements that help increase the growth or activity of the microbes that you want to encourage the growth of. And then there are functional foods, and these foods can include anything. They can have probiotics, prebiotics. There may be dietary supplements, vitamins, antioxidants, dietary fiber, phytochemicals. I mean, these are all different things that we can eat. And the truth is that what you eat will influence your microbiome. There is thought that prebiotics may decrease inflammation by promoting bacterial fermentation. Remember, I talked about some of those fatty acids that the bacteria make? Those are beneficial and they may have anti-inflammatory effects. Probiotics have actually demonstrated some decreases in irritable bowel syndrome patients and patients with celiac who are also following a strict gluten-free diet. Probiotics have also shown some benefit with reducing the recurrence of that infection C. diff that we talked about, and they may also decrease the recurrence of Helicobacter pylori, which is a type of bacteria that lives in your stomach and is associated with stomach ulcers. Now, all the claims that talk about probiotics boosting the immune system, reducing cancers, preventing cardiovascular disease and diabetes, preventing allergic reactions, those are not all supported by strong evidence. It doesn't mean there aren't some observational studies that may lean towards them. It just means there's really no great randomized controlled double-blinded study on these to say, oh yeah, nailed it. We figured this one out. Probiotics are definitely the way to go. If you happen to be on Team Probiotic, there are a few downsides that you need to know about. One is we're not even really sure what organisms are in the capsules. Are they alive? Do they even make it to the gut? If they do make it to the gut, do they colonize it? Because some of the studies say no. If you want to have these bacteria as a regular part of your microbiome, you are committed to taking these probiotics permanently. The other issue is probiotic manufacturing is not standardized. This isn't like, an FDA controlled thing. So I just want to backtrack. When we're talking about vitamins and supplements, there's not the same kind of oversight on these agents as there is drugs that make it to a market that pharmaceutical companies are selling. I'm not like a big pharma girl. I don't love what big pharma does. The only thing that I do like about pharma is I know if it is a drug from a pharmaceutical company, it went through rigorous testing and it is under constant scrutiny that it has to contain the active ingredient that it says it contains. And if anything were to happen where that pharmaceutical company would say lie or change anything, they're going to get a huge fine and they're going to get that product stripped from the market. Nothing like that happens with vitamins or supplements. So we don't even know if people are getting what they are being told they are getting. There are third-party companies that will investigate vitamins and supplements, and you'll see on the bottle, if you see like the letters USP with a circle around it, that's one of the ways to know that it was third-party tested and verified, and you can put a little bit more stock into that. Otherwise, there's really no regulation of these. There are two proven methods of changing your gut microbiome. One is through diet and one is through fecal transplants. And yes, the latter it is exactly what it sounds like. So in a study evaluating microbiome shifts with diet changes, researchers found that the microbiome will shift to whatever it needs to digest. So patients who are randomized to plant-based diets, their gut microbiome shifted to one that predominantly fermented carbohydrates. And those people who were randomized to an animal product diet shifted their microbiome to one that degrades proteins. The same shift was found in another study evaluating a Mediterranean diet and a diet with high intakes of red meat. So you really can change your microbiome based on what you're eating. And with everything that I've discussed, we have to talk about the limitations in the current evidence. So I've used the word may and claim a lot because when you're discussing gut health, we're not really sure if all these findings are accurate. One issue is we're not sure if it's a causation or correlation thing. And I think we've talked about this before. I've given the example of ice cream sales and drownings. In the summertime, sales and numbers of both of those go up. But we know that eating ice cream doesn't make you drown. The issue is it's the summertime, right? So that's the correlation. It's not a causation. It's the same thing with gut health, microbiome, probiotics, a lot of this. We're not 100% sure if it's a causation or correlation and if there are other things that are influencing the human microbiome. Another issue is the quality of the research. A ton of these studies are done on animals. We've talked about this before. Mice are not people, and so some of these results are not directly applicable. The human studies, well, they're not blinded and they're observational studies, which means they're completely subject to bias. You can't really determine, is this really what it's from? Is it from bias? Are there other confounding factors? And when the results of the study are from self-reported surveys, again, they're full of bias. So you're not 100% sure, can you really rely on that information? The last issue here is context, right? I talked about how we tried to link some of these bacteria to certain conditions, but the fact of the matter is the context of the bacteria also plays a role. For example, the same bacteria that is protective in a full-term baby can cause a serious illness in a premature baby. And the same issue exists when you're discussing probiotics and people's immune status. We don't hear these things a lot when we are reading about gut health and microbiome, and that's because the market right now is flooded with all of these consumer products for purchase. You can get a gut health makeover, a gut health diet, a cleanse, different skin regimens. There are so many cures and treatments and colonic hydrotherapy. As of 2024, the global probiotics market is valued at approximately $78.9 billion. And that number is expected to grow to $113.4 billion by 2029. Billion. You have to be skeptical when this is what the numbers look like. Out of curiosity, I did go on a few websites to see what these companies are charging, and it's anywhere from $100 to $600 to study your microbiome. And then you get offered this customized list of supplements that you pay for as well. I have no idea what that additional cost is because I didn't enter all of my information to find out. I find the whole thing somewhat suspicious anyways. What is normal for my microbiome might not be the same thing as what somebody else needs. So to have this test where I, provide a stool sample and mail off to someone, for them to then provide me a list of all the different bacteria in my gut and then tell me how I need to make changes, that sounds like they're trying to standardize what a gut microbiome should be. And there is no defined standard. I really think we have to look at the evidence that we have. The evidence shows that what you eat heavily influences your gut microbiome. The evidence suggests a diverse microbiome is healthier than one that is not diverse. So with those two facts in and of themselves, I would say, let's eat a healthy, diverse diet of foods, which will then encourage a diverse microbiome, which is supposed to be, quote, good gut health, end quote. Gut health is an integral part of our digestive system and overall health. It does matter. While our current understanding of how to manipulate it is a little bit limited, we do know that focusing on a balanced diet, getting regular exercise, and a healthy lifestyle is probably the best way to encourage a healthy microbiome. So I say for now, let's just do that. I don't really want to dump all this money into this industry when I know how much it costs. I also don't want to dump all this money when I know the evidence and the evidence is just not supporting their claims. Thank you so much for joining me this week on No Filter Doctor. What you do need to keep in mind is that while I am a doctor, I'm not your doctor. So anything that we discuss on this podcast is not medical advice. And listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. The purpose of this podcast is for information purposes only. Any questions or decisions that you want to make about your healthcare should be discussed with your doctor or other healthcare provider. Making healthcare decisions without discussing it first with your doctor or other healthcare provider is done so at your own risk.